Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Let us take a second to pay our respects to the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Krishna as we start this talk. This Practical Krishna series has been going on and off for several months, and just a quick intro on our approach or our methodology. We do not comprehend, none of us do not comprehend, including the rishis, including the Vedas, we do not comprehend the highest Nirguna Brahman. All we can do is in awe and maybe meditate on it. Maybe we can think about the glories and be amazed at it. Then we have the next step, what our acharyas have given, that is Saguna Brahman. Now, Nirguna Brahman is very abstract, but Saguna Brahman is so vast and literally not a possibility for any human mind or a combination of human minds to understand the vastness or the richness. So all we do is pray to that Bhagavan. Time to time, see, this Bhagavan exists as only Brahman, but in the world, time to time, we see its presence in the form of avatara. Why should Bhagavan take avatara? Just like the sky is not actually blue, just like the sun that appears to be yellow or in the morning it is orange or red, is not actually that color. So there is a difference between the real Brahman and how it appears in this world. How it appears in this world is nothing but dharma. And this entire universe that runs on dharma, now there may be multiple universes, multiverses as they call, we don't know. Like some Puranic texts give us the inkling. But even with this universe, we don't know how it operates and things like that. So all we do is dharma is the foundation of this universe. And whenever the dharma is at stake, Bhagavan takes an avatara to come and support the restoration of dharma. This happens time and time again. And then we are left with the question, why not now? Let's park that question for a while. And when Bhagavan comes here as an avatara, there are aspects of his Nirguna Brahman. That's probably evident and visible. There are aspects of Saguna Brahman that is visible. There are aspects of an avatara that is visible, which we worship and which we venerate. But there is also an element of a dharmic person, the fingerprint of a dharmic person that is available. And that dharmic person is what we are trying to understand. We are trying to understand Bhagavan as a human being. Why should we do this? Because our little minds can't comprehend the breadth and depth of Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman, or even for that matter the Avatara. Can you and I explain how a couple of day old child is able to get rid of Putana? Or even the newborn Krishna is able to talk to their parents or make the uh, fortress doors open magically, cross in the stormy waters of Yamuna. All those brilliant things, can we even understand? No, we cannot. So, from an avatara perspective, also, we don't comprehend. And here we are as human beings mired in our own relationships, bound with all sorts of confusions. How we want to capitalize this information given to us by rishis. So the only connection we can make, the only possible connection we can make, the bridge between us and Bhagavan is if we look at Bhagavan as a perfect human being, as a role model, as a superlative human being, which he is, but we are forced to think him like that. And then we, from whatever level we are raising our standard of our gunas to catch up with little bit of him, and then we try to cross the bridge. Now we are able to see, oh wow, Bhagavan is an avatara, Bhagavan is a Saguna Brahman, he is a Nirguna Brahman, that sort of thing. So that is the methodology we have been adopting while studying a lot of these Itihasa Puranas. So our objective is to profit as a human being. Bhagavan Krishna did so many, he killed so many of Kamsa's minions. Does that inspire us to go and catch hold of something? Can you catch one cobra and kill? Hey, this is how he danced on Kalinga. Can you do that? We won't get the courage. But we can say that, hey, Bhagavan Krishna acted as a human being in this way. Maybe I can't do 100%, I can do 10%. That confidence comes to us. So, armed with this backdrop, we are going to look at Bhagavan and tell him how we can make that connect, how we can focus on making that connect. Today we have a very interesting topic. Last 3 weeks we talked about Rama and relationships. That how to have healthy, happy relationships. Dharma was the core. Dharma was the bedrock. Now today we are going to look at an interesting case study. Now you have a lot of characters in Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, right? Like Jarasandha, Kamsa, Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, Shakuni, all these people, you can tell them. In scene 1, you know that they are all bad guys. Till the time they go, they are bad guys. Now, life is not black and white like that. So what happens when Krishna could use a lens? These are Asuric people. I deal with them one way. It's cut and dry. There's no confusion. But there is one character, though he may be having all those Asuric qualities, Krishna had to use a lot of tact, lot of his energy to maintain that particular relationship, and he didn't want to ruin that relationship. That was his brother-in-law, his name was Rukmi. And this delicate situation and the delicate analysis Krishna is doing with Rukmi is the subject of our study. And just like we do typically in all these case studies, we first will look at the story, and at the end of the story we will analyze and we will profit from how to apply it in our daily lives. So let's do that that way. So the first thing what we are going to do is we are going to, since this story is a combination of what we gather from Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata. So the story is centered around Rukmi. So what we are going to do is we are going to use a different narration, not changing the facts, but we are going to sequentialize these two Itihasa Puranas and blend it in so that it is one seamless Rukmi story for us. Because like you know, in Mahabharata, one story starts somewhere, one character goes somewhere, and then it comes back. It's so complicated. So what we are going to do, we are going to look at Rukmi. Now, who is this Rukmi and where did he come from? So there was a Raja called Bhishmaka, not Bhishma. His name was Bhishmaka. He was the Raja of Vidarbha. You know, Vidarbha is centered around Nagpur area. Now remember Krishna where he is. He moved from Mathura near Agra all the way to Dwaraka, that is in Gujarat. So Krishna has already moved. Now this Vidarbha Raja had 5 sons. Their names were like Rukmi, Rukmartha, Rukmabahu, Rukmesha and Rukmamali. Just a side note, you don't have to remember them. And then he had one daughter called Rukmini. I think we already saw in the secrets of Rukmini Vivaha how Rukmini Vivaha happened and the secrets of it. I don't think it's necessary for us to repeat that. So we can go to the namesake channel of this room, Sanatana Marivom, and you can get it in YouTube, both in Tamil and in English. We have that talk. We looked at how we saw Rukmini as Jivatma and Paramatma. That all that analogy and that wonderful insight we got, we will park it aside. But we will just go with a different plot. Today the center of the story is Rukmini. Now this Rukmini was someone of unparalleled beauty. Of course, she is Mahalakshmi herself. And this Rukmi, what he did was, he was the one who was running the puppet government. His father was merely a puppet. He had this alliance tied up with all the bad guys of against Krishna. You know, like all the let's say like negative characters like Jarasandha, Salva, Dantavakra, Vidurata, Poundraka, and so on and so forth. And remember, Jarasandha's army had one guy whom we have to remember who gets killed in this particular battle, that is Ekalavya. So understand the connection where Drona was against, because Ekalavya was sworn to be on Jarasandha's side, and Bhagavan and Dronacharya did not want that to happen. Here the alliance was to have a marriage between Shishupala, who was the cousin of Sri Krishna, and get him in a political marriage with Rukmini. And the entire marriage was blessed and orchestrated by Jarasandha. Now, there is an interesting thing that was happening. What happened was, people used to come from Dwaraka and tell Rukmini, you know Krishna, how he chased all this Jarasandha, all these bad guys and things like that. There will come all these stories. And then people would go from Vidarbha and tell Krishna, Krishna, there is only one beautiful girl in this world, and she is the only match for you. That is Rukmini. So thus Rukmini and Krishna had that sort of mental connect long before this stage was set. So what happened on the day the marriage was announced and things like that? um, Rukmini sent a message. You remember that love letter we analyzed in Rukmini's Swayamvara and the Vivaha secrets? So what happened? The letter went to Krishna. Krishna immediately dashed to Vidarbha. Next day morning was the marriage. Krishna reached there night. And the way Krishna went so fast with Daruka made Balrama bring one entire Vrishni army. Like Balrama was always like the curious guy. He was like, what's happening to my little brother? He need to be involved in everything. So our Balramana brought one big army of Vrishnis and they came. Now Bhishma was surprised. How come Krishna showed up when he also wanted Krishna and Rukmini marriage, but he was vetoed, just like China vetoes handing over the terrorists in Pakistan, right? Like they vetoed. And so this fellow was pleasantly surprised that Krishna himself has come to bless the wedding. That's what he thought. But he didn't understand that when next day when Rukmini went to Devi Puja and she said, I'm going to do puja and come, Krishna was waiting. So Krishna asked her, please get onto the chariot. All these guys were kind of watching and stunned. And Rukmini went in front of, literally in front of all these guys. They all tried to resist. They were all beaten up. And then what happened? The Vrishnis had started the fight with this local army. All the armies, the troll armies, right? The armies of Jarasandha and all the people who had come to support, right? They were the ones who were causing the problem. Now Rukmi, he said, I won't let this happen. He said, I will not return to my capital, Kundinapura. So he took one Akshauhini Sena and he did a chase, high-speed chase. Nowadays we see in TV and all, right? Like police chasing all these bad guys and things like that. We have seen that. Like James Bond movie chase. Same thing is happening. High-speed chase. And in this high-speed chase, what happened? He finds himself outmatched, outclassed by Krishna. And Krishna was like ready to kill him. So he's in a very pitiable state, like ridiculous state. So Rukmini falls at the feet of her own husband. I mean, yet to be husband. And she says, it's okay. Can you please forgive him? He is my brother. I love him. So Krishna was already moved, but that he didn't want to kill his potential brother-in-law. Why start your marriage on a wrong footing, right? You want your wife to be happy. So he took Rukmi's clothes and he bound him and he tonsured his head and he told him, behave properly. Meanwhile, our Balramana defeated all the opponents and he came back on the chase. He thought he will come back and help Krishna. Now one Akshauhini is gone. This fellow is sitting there with his tonsured head. I hope you guys are able to visualize that. And then what happened? Balramana does something really interesting. He starts consoling Rukmini and he starts chastising Krishna. He says, hey, how can you do this to a relative? And then he makes a statement. This is a very interesting sloka. That's why I thought I will just read this sloka. Rajasya bhume vitrasya striyo manasya tejasaha manino nyayasaha va heto Sri Madananda Kshipantihi. Basically what he is saying is, only people who are intoxicated by pride and arrogance, those are the people who are intoxicated by this pride and arrogance, infatuated by power and wealth. They fight indiscriminately against their own relatives for trivial things like what? Like a piece of land, some territory, maybe a woman, or maybe a reputation, or just to display that I am a cool guy, I am more powerful. This is what happens. Krishna, you are not that. So this is the interesting thing that Balramana told this to Krishna. So Krishna had already forgiven Rukmi, but Balramana was like overdose advice because he wanted to impress Rukmini and he wanted to make her feel welcome. Remember that here is a girl who is meeting her potential husband first time. There is a high speed chase, and then there is a lot of death all around, and then there is a lot of like her own brother, elder brother is on the verge of being killed, and then here is our Balramana trying to come and say like, Krishna, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then he says, Rukmini, don't worry, don't worry. Krishna is never like this. Krishna is a nice guy. He will not do like that. Eventually, they go back to Dwaraka and get married in a great way. But what happens is our friend Rukmi, he couldn't go back to Kundinapura. He made the promise, right? If I don't come back with Rukmini, I will not come back. So he built a new city called Bojakata, and he built a new kingdom around that place. Okay. Now here we will put a pause to our Bhagavatam story. Now we will jump to Mahabharata Udyoga Parva. Okay. Why we need to jump to that is to get another facet of Rukmi, and then we will jump back again to Bhagavata. Now what happens in Mahabharata, we get a couple of pieces of information. Like there is one Asura called Krodavasa. Based on his Amsa only, Rukmi is born. Okay. Now what happened? So that means Rukmi may be Rukmini's brother, but he is having that Asura's Amsa. That's what Mahabharata informs us. In fact, Mahabharata catalogs all the different Devas, Devatas, Asuras, who are all born on which side and who and why and that sort of thing. We are not going into that. So this Rukmi, who is so proud that who wants to join the Mahabharata war, has two defeats. When Sahadeva went at the request of Yudhishthira for the Rajasuya Yajna, at that time he accepted Yudhishthira's dominance and Sahadeva's suzerainty, the rule. So he gave all tributes to Yudhishthira. Later, when Yudhishthira went to the forest, Karna was forced to please Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. So he goes on a single man mission. He goes and defeats a lot of Rajas and he brings a lot of wealth. Of course, they are very shallow when compared to what the Pandavas had brought earlier. What Dhananjaya, that's the name itself he got. His name is Dhananjaya. He went and won a lot of wealth. But nonetheless, when Karna came, Rukmi accepted his dominance and he gave a lot of tributes. So he did accept Duryodhana's preeminence also. So we have to keep this in mind. And then when the Mahabharata war, both sides are adding up army. So little backdrop of this Rukmi, how come he became powerful and confident? Because after he got beaten up by Krishna, he found one guy called, or maybe before, I don't know before or after that, I could not glean that information. But basically he meets a guy called Druma. He is basically a Kimpurusha who is in the court of Kubera. Now from him he also got a bow called Vijaya. Now, people should recall that our Karna also had a similar bow called Vijaya. I don't know why both are called Vijaya, because unlike a Gandiva, which is only unique, probably this Vijaya class of bows, there were quite a few. I don't know. I could not discern whether it is the material used or the special type of thing. Because you see, there is only one saranga, there is only one pinaka, right? So there is only one kodanda. You don't have that in plenty, but Vijaya probably existed in duplicate copies. I don't know. That's what I infer. So he got this bow also, and so he thought he was invincible, right? Even Vidura had a very famous bow, which Krishna destroys when he comes for that visit. So now Yudhishthira is saying, like, people who are ready to support, come this side. So Rukmi raises one Akshauhini Sena and he comes. He falls at the, he comes to Yudhishthira and says, Yudhishthira, I will come and support you. Now you have to understand there were some issues with Rukmi. Rukmi had two problems. First problem he had was he had too much pride in his own strength. The second problem, and that is despite the fact that he lost to Krishna, despite the fact he lost to Sahadeva and later Karna, right? It's not only Krishna, all these people had come and showed their power to him. So what happened? This fellow took that, despite all that, he thought he was invincible. The bigger problem he had was, just like Shishupala or Kamsa, not Kamsa, I should say Shishupala, he had this strong hate. Remember, I posted a couple of talks ago, and if you want to go to my blog, there is this article, the companion article which I have posted, that can give you the link to my blog. But if you see the last two articles, the one of them says Bhagavad Gita Insights the Doomed, the other one says Gita Insights the Redeemed. Basically, that is chapter 7, sloka 15, and the other one is sloka 16. Now, here if you go in the Doomed, you will find that these asuric nature of people, they have this predominantly hatred for dharma, hatred for Bhagavan. You will find this. In today's case, if you go to Tamil Nadu, you will find all these Dumils. What do you think they are all? They are all at best, I am categorizing them lesser than Asuras. But just to elevate their status, we can tell them they are of Asuric mindset, to say the least. Because by default, you have that hate for dharma, hate for Bhagavan, hate for anything that is good. That is the same thing you will find in our Rukmi. So he goes to Yudhishthira and he says, you know what, this is the deal. Now, if you are a guy coming and joining, like we were talking in how the attitude of people is today, right? We go to a guru, instead of saying like, Guru, please accept me as your Shishya, we tell the guru, hey, I have selected you, you are now appointed as my guru. That is the attitude we have, right? That kind of like borderline matches that of Rukmi. He goes to Yudhishthira and he says, Yudhishthira, I know you've been through a lot of issues. And then he says, this is what we need to do. I'm going to give my one Akshauhini army. Remember, in the Mahabharata, there were 18 Akshauhinis, 11 of them on the side of Kauravas, 7 of them on the side of Pandavas. Right? This guy said, I have brought one Akshauhini. And here is the deal. I will kill one of the 3 heroes on the other side, Bhishma, Drona or Karna. One of them is mine. You tell me the name, that person is mine. Okay? And he said, you guys take a back seat and sit. Single-handedly I will defeat them and I will throw that kingdom at your feet. Now, it may look like a nice gesture, but to tell that to a Kshatriya that I will win the, here is Yudhishthira trying to win his kingdom on his own footing. And here is this guy comes and says, you don't have to do your dharma, all you need to do is just give me your okay, I will go and get the kingdom for you. That itself was pissing off. But there is also another issue. Remember the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna's Abhimana has not come to the fore. In his mind, though he knows he is going to meet Bhishma, Drona, all these people, he is still not worked out that equation how to deal. So that strong Abhimana for Acharya is there. Now when somebody comes and says, I will kill your guru, and here is the guy who says everything is his guru. For Arjuna's identity, it was not Krishna's disciple till the end. It was always Drona Shishya. Right? So he was always identifying himself as Drona Shishya. And here is this guy comes and says, I will come and kill Drona. That is kind of ridiculous. And then here is also Arjuna, who had conquered many big armies. So here is he had single-handedly with Krishna, he and Krishna alone took the entire might of the Devas and the Danavas in the Kandavadana episode. He went and did a favor to Indra by killing the Nivata Kavachas and the Kalakeyas who were hiding under the ocean. Here is Arjuna who got the blessings of Parameswara and got Pasupadastra. Here is Indra, Kubera, Yama, Agni, Varuna, all these people have given him astras. And here is a person who is in the personal favor column of Kripa, Drona, and of course Krishna. Here is someone with Gandiva, with two inexhaustible quivers. And now here is this fellow coming and saying, don't be afraid, dudes, I will come and get this thing straightened out for you. So Arjuna just got up, smiled, and he didn't insult him. He said, your presence or absence in the camp makes no difference to us. Now you tell like this to an arrogant person, what will happen? It will hurt their ego. It's exactly what happened to Rukmi. It was not Arjuna who burst his ego. It was Rukmi's unwanted exhibition of his own pride that made him get those kind of words. If he had come and said, Yudhishthira, here I am to serve you. What do you want me to do? I am here. Sign me up. You want me to do the charge, lead the charge? I will do that. You want me to stay in the rear, do rear guard? I will do that. You want to just be the, like the camp guard? I will do that. That is the attitude of a guy who is coming and saying, I will serve you. But that's the exact opposite of our Rukmi, right? It's too much to ask him. So he goes to Duryodhana now, and then Duryodhana also, he does the same trick. Hey, you take a back seat, I will come. Now here at least you tell that to Arjuna, he's more civilized, and he's saying like, at least you stay or you go, it doesn't matter. But he went to Duryodhana and he tried the same trick. What happened? Here is a war that only two Maharathas in entire India at that time had to sit out. One was Balramanna. Balramanna was confused between his duties, his loyalties to what his avatara intention was, and his affinity for Duryodhana because he had took him as a disciple. So that Abhimana had made Balramana to stay out. Otherwise, he could have also fought the war. And here is Rukmi, who is a powerful Raja, and despite being a powerful Raja, Rukmi had to sit out on account of his ego. Okay, now let's go to the last stage. We are again jumping back to the Dasamaskanda, the 61st chapter, in for to see how Rukmi's life ended. Okay, now Rukmini and Krishna had one son. We all know his name, Pradyumna. Now Rukmi had one daughter. Her name was Rukmavati. So Rukmavati and Pradyumna were married, and they got one son called Aniruddha. Now Pradyumna, actually what he did was, he didn't just go and get that like that. Pradyumna went to her Swayamvara, defeated all the sidekicks, and he won Rukmavati's hand royally. But Rukmini was still the favorite sister, only sister. So Rukmi said, "Okay, chalo chalta hai." And then he said, like, what happened when the next time came, when Aniruddha's marriage time came, he had a daughter from his son, and her name was Rochana. Now, this is not officially due to Shastras. This kind of marriage is kind of like not popular or accepted. But Rukmi still wanted to do that because remember, Rukmi had a strong affinity for Rukmini. Now in the marriage, nice big, all this fanfare was there and things like that. Remember, all these guys had seen what happened due to playing the game of dice. But that did not stop these guys. So, like when marriage and all in those days, I don't know, nowadays it is become like a very fanciful exhibition of wealth and that sort of thing. But in those days, between the different events, like in the evening or some in between some of the rituals that happened, there'll be a lot of free time. During that time, somehow our guys got this bad habit. I have seen this myself. In some weddings, they will play cards. That's kind of like remnants of this, like this game of dice, right? Balramana had one weakness too, just like Yudhishthira. He also liked to gamble. But his expertise was probably closer to mine rather than Shakuni, or even for that matter Yudhishthira. So he was not all that favored to win. So one mischievous Raja, is Raja of Kalinga, he told Rukmi, "Hey, you are anyway the dominant player amongst all these guys. Like these guys specialize in this kind of negative things, right? Why don't you call Balrama? Because you call, let's play a game of dice, this fellow will come. And he has this weakness. Just like you go to a guy who is having weakness for alcohol, you say, come, let's have alcohol. He'll say like, okay, what is the occasion? No occasion. Come, let's just drink. Like that. Now, Balramana kept losing again and again and again. Now, Balramana was also having this desire that I will catch up the next round and I will win. Though I lost all the previous run, I will win. Now, every time Balramana lost, this Raja of Kalinga was showing his teeth and he was like irritating him. He was like, hey, you lost it. Hey, loser, kind of thing. Now what happened? It became the bet was all going. First started 1 coin, 2 coin, 100 coin, 1000 coin, like that. The bet went to now 1 lakh panas or 1 lakh gold coins. Now Balramanna luck favored him and he won. Our Rukmi was a sore loser. He said like, nah, that's not right. You are cheating. You are cheating, cheating, cheating. And then he said like, hey, let's raise the stake and make it as 10 crore panas. From 1 lakh, they raised it to 10 crores. Right? Like a 100-fold jump. Balramanna said, okay, chalo chalta hai. Now, Balramanna won again in a straight game. Now, Rukmi could not brook that. He started telling that Balramanna cheated and he was a loser and all these things. But there was one Akashavani that came and that said Balramanna won fair and square and Rukmi was telling lies. But what happens when the heat of evil keeps forcing us to do these kind of actions? That evil prompted, and also time, right? Our bad time, Kala. That Kala prompted Rukmi to ignore this Akashavani and he started abusing Balramanna and indirectly Krishna. He started saying, you guys are cowherds, you guys are not fit to carry the weapons, we are only Rajas. Remember, Krishna was never the Raja. Remember, Yaduvamsha is cursed by Yayati that they will never be the Rajas, right? So Krishna was not the king, but the thing was that he was an enabler. So he was saying that you guys are fit for only carrying arrows and things like that to Rajas like me, and you guys are nothing fit more than cowherds. You Gwalas, you are cheaters, you are fit for nothing. Now you go and tell someone to like Balramanna like this, he is Adishesha Avatara. He is like, normally only he is like super angry. Magically, he found his Gada right next to him. Not even Gada, I think it's a Halayuda. He just struck it on Rukmi. The second it touched his head, he died. And then he knocked the teeth of this Kalinga Raja because he was like grinning and he was irritating, right? Now all his teeth, 32 teeth gone. One shot. Now all the other Rajas who were cheering and jeering at Balramanna, they all ran. Now here is the last line for the story and we end the story before we get into the analysis. Now what actually happened there? Nihate Rukmini Syale na abravit sadav asaduva Rukmani balayo rajan sneha banga bayad Dari. Sneha Banga Bayad Harihi. Why? What happened? Krishna kept quiet. He did not say what was right, what was wrong, because he did not want to spoil the relationships with Rukmani or Balarama. We'll come into that and analyze in a bit. But openly he did not support Balram or Rukmani. So we will pause our story here. Now we will get into what is this story got to do with us. That's more important, right? The entire purpose of this storytelling is not only to recount the pastimes of Krishna, but to understand what we can learn and apply in our lives. That is the very reason for this talk, right? Obviously, you can follow this talk by going to the article that is pinned on the top. Whenever you are free, you can look at that. So the first thing we can learn is that we must learn tolerance, especially when we are fighting with our relatives. The people who push us the most are going to be probably relatives. Someone once quipped God's way of balancing our relatives is He gave us friends. Well, I don't know how much of that is true, because some of the people, some of the friends also go off color too over a period of time. But nonetheless, tolerance is the name of the game when it comes to relationships. Rukmi is having the habit of all the time crossing his limits. See, first time when he violated and abused Krishna so much, Krishna pardoned him because Rukmini was there, and he accepted that. That was the first request of Rukmini, and he said, "Okay, I will oblige whatever you want. You are my wife. You are my girl. You gave up everything and counted on me, so I will take care of your desire." So, but to teach this fellow a lesson, he tonsured his hair and told him, behave properly. Years later, Pradyumna married Rukmavati. We just saw that. And then later, even Aniruddha Rochana marriage, that also is happening. So, what happens in relationships? There is always give and take. It's okay, chalta hai. These are what our people brityas, right? Like you basically, if they die, you are still supposed to have the sutaka, you are supposed to do what you are supposed to, you are take a bath and things like that. So you are bound to them in some sort of way. So you learn tolerance. Sometimes they say, right, you have to bite the bullet. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet so hard that it doesn't explode in your face or something. But you have to be very clear where to tolerate that. Where is that red line? Where is that line of dharma? Let's say that the brother-in-law comes home, he murdered somebody and he came. That's not the time you say like, okay, he is my family, I will not let the police see, I will hide him. No. You have to know where dharma is getting violated and where tolerance needs to be demonstrated. If that guy is a bit abusive, okay, chalo, we'll tone down the emotions, that sort of thing. And we must be very careful to see in the relationship what is the glue. We saw that last 3 weeks we were continuously seeing that dharma has to be the the glue. And here, if dharma is not violated, you are good to go. Okay, so tolerance is the first thing we are learning from. The second thing is we want to put the spotlight on tamas, because when you are talking of character like Rukmi, on and on and on, the central thing you have to understand is tamas. Now look at Rukmi's tamas, that not only he dominated his father, not only he wanted to give his most beautiful sister Rukmini to some worthless character like Shishupala just on account of political marriage. So what happens is the situation is always going to be odd. Now here is a very, very, very practical lesson from Rukmini. She is the one who is affected the most. She is the one who was loved with Krishna. She is the one whose life was at stake. These guys were putting her life on the line. So, to counter tamas, we have to take proper actions at the right time, and even if you have to get out of your comfort zone, so be it. Because what happens if you don't? You will succumb to the pressure of tamas. Whether it is in your individual family life, office life, wherever you are in society, we have to learn how to counter tamas. You have to counter tamas, you don't have to be 100% sattvic and all. All you have to do is waken up little bit rajas and counter that. That's all. It will lose its power the minute you Like if there is a thief who is stealing in your house, now you go there and you just fold your hands and you start seeing, looking at him, staring at him. The thief will be stunned. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know whether you are going to attack him or he is going to be equally stunned. So all you have to do is awaken that little bit rajas and counter tamas every time. If you don't do that, tamas will really rob all the other goodness we have. Let's continue in this theme of tamas. What else we have? See, Rukmi's tamas was also a root of how it exhibited. It exhibited his arrogance, pride. We saw how he goes to someone like Arjuna. Arjuna, someone of the caliber of Arjuna, right? The whole world knew that he got Pasupatastra, he got this, he got that, all those accolades, all the wars. You remember how single-handedly he defeated all these people and things like that. He has got all those accolades. But here comes our friend Rukmi and he tells, dude, I am enough to finish off Bhishma, Drona, Karna and all the Rajas. I will throw this kingdom at your feet. Well, it's cute and nice if it is a small child that's talking bravado, if it is a 2-3-year-old child. You are a grown up guy. You can't talk like that. So Arjuna did not abuse him. He just told him, your presence or absence doesn't make any difference. If he used his buddhi, if he thought what is dharma, hey, I came here because this is dharma yuddha. What should he have done? I am here to fight for dharma. I am going to be on this side. So he didn't do that. So the same reason he goes with arrogance to the Kauravas and Duryodhana snubs him and then he goes and sits out. So what tamas does is it blinds us and robs us and cheats us of those opportunistic moments. Remember, here it was a war where if he got killed, he would have attained Veera Swarga. Or if he defeated others, he would have been victorious. Instead, what was our guy doing? He was sitting and eating popcorn. So tamas is like really, really a big menace for all of us. And also look at what he did. He did cheating in that game of silly game for dice. Even there he was relying on cheating. He was calling names. He was abusing. So what happened was, the irony was he met his own end, at his because of his own bad mouth. Again tamas. Here is one important lesson from Krishna. You already saw that, tolerance. But this one is something which I have to learn. I have just signed up for this course and I am probably going to take this is going to be the toughest thing for me. It's a question of timely silence, right? How many of you probably have seen, at least in TV or maybe have a real life experience, maybe there is two fights happening between, say, wife and mother-in-law or something like that, right? That time what should you do? Most experienced people, they keep quiet. They don't take sides. Because if you take sides, you are gone case on both sides, right? Now, that is again, that's a caricatured, stereotyped idea, but that need not be true. Here is Krishna who teaches us how to be silent at most crucial junctures. Why did he could have just offered something, right? He could have just took his hand and touched Rukmini, or maybe like tapped Balramana. And he didn't do anything. He just kept his hands and mouth and everything quiet. Because Rukmi's death, look at the situation. They are here to celebrate a marriage of his grandson, and marriage of it's a wonderful opportunity. So what happened? Instead, we have a death. So on top of that, it is who? Rukmini, her favorite brother. And on top of that, what? It was happening in the marriage ceremony. Right? Now, you also have to see what is Balramanna's situation. Balramanna was uh, fuming because this Rukmi and all his friends were mocking them, they were ridiculing them, calling them cowherds and all sorts of names. That was, and he thought he was doing the right thing and Krishna should say Sabash. Now imagine if Krishna told him, hey, I would have killed him the first time. You only stopped. What would have happened? Balramana would have become more furious. Yeah, I stopped, but what is this? And if he said something like a simple thing like, okay, I think I agree with you, this fellow was going overboard, Rukmini would have been enraged. Even if a simple thing Krishna did was just look at Rukmini or maybe pat Balramana's back, that body language itself was enough to create a chaotic situation in the relationship between him and Rukmini, him and Balram. And he did not want to risk that. So silence is a good response for those sort of situation. Interestingly, I mean, like it just popped in my head. Many times you see the current government ruling party in when a lot of these opposition are busy hurling some sort of name calling or something like that, they say like, okay, let's just focus and do our task. They just want to let their work talk for itself rather than actual statements. Maybe that's inspired by this, I don't know, but it can definitely inspire us how to have those kind of tricky solutions in such complicated scenarios. Now let's look at what is the other option. Now this is the one that probably ties all together to us. Now if you look around, change is the only constant in the universe, right? It's only constant. So we have to change and evolve in our gunas in a good way, or else we are gonna perish. See, Rukmi was given special pardon because Rukmini intervened and said, hey, forgive this fellow. But instead, what did he do? He cultivated hate for Krishna. We saw that during the Mahabharata war, we saw that at every single step, and we saw that when you are bringing your own what is it like sambandhis for the in-laws for the marriage, you are abusing them literally in the wedding. You are abusing Balramana and Krishna as cowherds and all sorts of things and name calling. So what happened if you don't change your qualities and if you are not willing to change your gunas? We are going to get tripped. Krishna would have finished it in the very first encounter, but ironically, the one who stopped the potential killing of Rukmi, that is Balramana, is the same person who ends Rukmi's life. What happened to all that lecture what Balramana gave to Krishna? See, that is where we are really, it is so ironic, right? The beginning of the story, we saw that Balramana came and he made big statements against Krishna that, hey, these are the kind of people who go kill, we are not that kind of people. Why couldn't Balramana hold his anger? Now here is where things get more personal to us. See, in our life, we have these all sorts of vasanas, good vasanas, bad vasanas. These vasanas are continuously impinging and pressurizing on our normal tendencies. They influence our gunas. Because our gunas are rearranged by that, and it continuously keeps prompting us, do this, do this, do this. Depending on the intensity of our vasanas, we are internally pushed to doing certain karmas. Like, say, for example, a drug addict or an alcohol addict, when they are sober, they think, you know what, I should not do that. The minute that internal pressure comes, they surrender to that and they continue the same journey. So, vasanas are very, very, very powerful things, and that is where we have to, the two slokas we looked at earlier, which I have been promoting for almost this entire month. Chapter 7, Sloka 15 and Chapter 7, Sloka 16. I have already pinned those two articles multiple times. Those are the last two articles on my blog. You can go and see that. And for those of you who don't know the connection to the blog, you can go to the article that is pinned on the top, that is the companion for this talk. And you can look at the latest two talks. There we see, if we go in the reverse gear, the worst category where we can fall is our asuric mindset. And because of this asuric mindset, we fall down to that level, and that is all because of our vasanas. Now, is it all doom and gloom? No. Vasanas are the natural tendency of our baggages to exert the pressure like that. But we have the ability to change, regulate, and modify that through our own purusharthas. So, our purushartha is nothing but an attempt to take a new path. I don't want to go in the same old path, beaten path. I want to create a new path. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to create that new path. How do I start getting into this new path? Because you have to again overcome your tamas. And that tamas is what these vasanas rely on to push you back into that same trap. Now you can work your way up to rajas, but you are still under the influence of tamas. If you are 100% rajas, you are still going to be regressing back to tamas. So if you want to slowly move that guna factor to sattvic, and when you become sattvic, you are going to, that what basically is happening, you are exerting purushartha and you are moving the dial from tamas to rajas to sattva. And when you are doing that, your gunas have changed. You are slowly fighting against these vasanas and you are chartering a new route. When you charter a new route, how do you know that this is a new route? How should you know that? That is where satsanga comes into play. Studying scriptures regularly is going to help us. Listening to the lives of great Mahatmas are going to help us. And taking that knowledge, what we get by reading or listening, that Shravanam, we reflect on our mind as Mananam and then put it into practice in our life as Nididhyasitavyam. And only when we do that, we are going to transcend and get over that bad spot. So the Itihasa Puranas are all having all these interesting characters and things like that, but they are like portals. They are going to give you the information how to engineer that inner transformation. So, how do you make that transformation in your own lives? How do you handle these complicated relationships? Because you and I land into a bad relationship or a bad spot in a relationship or a complicated aspect of a relationship because we are stuck with a couple of things. One, we are operating at the level of tamas. Second, we are operating at the level of kama or maximum best case scenario artha, but mostly kama. We need to move the dial to dharma. Same way we need to move the guna dial to sattva. When we do these two, it takes an effort. If you are going by walking, I call your name, hey, where are you going? Stop here, come back. You can make a quick U-turn. If you are running, you can turn but not at the same speed as you are walking or standing. If you are going on a bike and I say, hey, come here, you can make a U-turn which is going to be very small and still you can change directions, not a big deal. But if you are going in an aircraft carrier, how easy it is for you to make a U-turn? Not that easy, isn't it? So these vasanas are putting us that kind of momentum subconsciously because we have given our control of our life to these vasanas that they are autopiloting us. As long as we are being autopiloted by our senses, as long as we are being autopiloted by our affiliation to sense objects, we are going to have tough time in turning this direction, reversing this direction. How do I know that I need to change my dial to sattva? How do I know I need to change my vision from kama to dharma? And what are the tools? How do you get that? Who is doing that? Is there any example? That is where Itihasa Puranas come into the picture. They come and give you all these wonderful examples of all these different positive characters, negative characters, and characters in between. And we can look at them and we can make that change in our life. The change in our life will not happen immediately. The relationship change, whether it is husband, wife, whether it is our boss and whatever employee, or whether it is our neighbors, whether it is our relationship with our brothers or our relatives, we have to entertain that idea of tolerance, what Krishna demonstrated, right? But just biting the bullet alone will not help you. You don't like somebody in your family and they don't like you. You don't like to see each other. You can bite the bullet and say, like, you know what, I don't like them, they don't like me, I will not see them in the next family get together. You will not see them. That's fine. That's not going to be the solution, right? Is it? Is that going to be your solution? Hey, I will tolerate you. That means it's a nice way of saying I don't respect you. That is not going to be a solution. What is going to be the secret sauce in this solution is raising our values. Again, we come back to dharma. We had the talk for the last 3 weeks. In any relationship, dharma should be the standard. If dharma is violated, then doesn't mean that you take the club like Balramanna and start hitting people. Basically, what you need to do is dharma being violated in your relationship. That is the one red flag you are all the time looking. If dharma is not being violated, if values are not being violated, principles are not being violated, then you can work it out. There is always an option to work it out. But it is not going to be easy. If there is a drug addict or an alcoholic person, and you go and tell him, hey, you know what, you give up all that. That vasana pressure is not going to be easy. Now, it is easy to analyze another person and say, hey, this person is alcoholic, this person is bad, that person is this and that. Here, this entire argument is not about the other person. It is all about you, all about me, all about myself. Because the only person I am trying to control and reform and modify here is myself. I don't care about what other people do, because it is what I bring to the table in that equation. In this equation, was Krishna able to modify or influence Rukmi? No, he could not. But what Krishna could bring to the table is, hey, I am going to bring high values of dharma here to the table. As simple as that. And that is all we need to do. Now, if we ourselves don't know what all these high values are, and that is where we have to go for satsanga, go for regular studies of scriptures, hang out with Itihasa Puranas, take time to reflect on them, take time to integrate them in your life. Don't look at them as stories. Stop looking at them as stories. They are not Hollywood, Bollywood entertainment written by rishis to titillate your mind and the senses. These are basically deep value ideas that you can integrate in your life. Now, what is the theme we started with this talk? When we elevate ourselves from a low value to a high value situation, when we integrate dharma into our life, now we elevate ourselves from being a okay person to a person who is good in the lens of dharma, in the lens of shastras, in the lens of what rishis tell you. Now you take that goodness and that acts as a bridge between you and Bhagavan. Now your mind is sattvic enough to understand when someone says, hey, Bhagavan was an avatara. Now you can comprehend. But understand, when you are going and telling to these self-certified rationalists or self-certified dumils like in Tamil Nadu, or self-certified people who are Hindu phobes or people who don't understand Dharma, they will not get it. Did Rukmi get it? He didn't. Why? We already know what is the root of all his problem, arrogance and whatnot, that asuric mindset. Unless that, even that mindset can change. See, Sanatana Dharma is the only mechanism that tells you, even if you are on that worst case scenario, you can slowly change the dial, replace your asuric nature and become a sattvic person. Whereas Abrahamic ideas are, if you sign up for the religion, you go to heaven and you can keep dancing with all the women. But if you don't sign up, you'll be burnt and roasted in hell all day long, 24/7. How long? Forever. That kind of puerile idea of religion is not what Sanatana Dharma is talking to you. It is wanting you to understand the science behind it so you can change the dial of your gunas towards sattva. Change the dial of your lens. Instead of kama, you are looking at your vision through dharma. When you alter those two things, the whole world changes. I will close with this thoughts before we open up to Q&A. When I used to listen to Wayne Dyer, I quoted him a couple of days also earlier. Wayne Dyer was a guy who was very much influenced by a lot of Eastern ideas and philosophies. And he used to say, one of his favorite quotes, I know I don't recall whom he was quoting, but one of his favorite quotes was, the way you look at things, things change. So let us understand that the way we are looking at right now is through the lens of kama, through the gunas of tamas. But when we change that to sattva and dharma, the way we are going to look at the world is going to change. So let's recall that quote and put it in perspective, that this entire talk is all about how we can take control of complicated relationships in life, looking at Krishna's example, which is exactly what we did. And let's conclude this talk by remembering him. Hare Krishna.